Hello and welcome to the Womb Centered Healing Podcast. I'm Sama Morningstar and I have Indra Singh with me here today. Thank you so much, Indra, for joining us. I'm really looking forward to conversing with you. I would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit. I'll just introduce you a little bit. We were talking before we got on here. I'm really excited to hear more about your work with Lunar Flower Essences. I was taught to make flower essences in the sunlight, and it makes complete sense to me what you're talking about making them in the moonlight. And I'm ready to hear about that, and growing our own plants and our own flowers. And particularly, I'm interested in talking about how we can apply these practices to healing womb trauma. This is what we've been talking about a lot in the Womb Centered Healing Temple recently. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what womb centered healing means to you and womb trauma healing with these flower essences and other practices.
Thank you. Well, my name is Indra, and I have an amazing flower essence business called Silent Moon Imaginarium. I've been going for about 3 years now, and I think it's longer. I can't keep up with the time. It doesn't matter. But I create flower essences by the light of the moon, and was always drawn to do that over the sun for some reason. And it was something that was a bit thought of as, I think in the beginning, as a bit woo-woo, that nobody can create by moonlight because nothing's awake in the moon, I heard. And I was like, really? Do you want to step outside at nighttime and just check? I have heard some funny things, really strange. That's why you're laughing, because it's so strange. But I continued. I'm not really a person who stays in the box, so I continued to create the flower essences for me, because it was my journey. This was about my healing, So, and then I noticed, I went on a course and I started doing it, and then all of a sudden, as life takes you on your journey, the labels were created, things were just manifesting, everything was just coming about just like that, so quickly, so easily, and I realized that this had to be taken out there into the world. So I started, advertising on Facebook, as we do, and creating a website, and it just went bang. It was huge, and I seem to have manifested an amazing amount of women who really wanted to do this work. And it wasn't until after about a year or so that I really started to see what the bigger picture was, when everybody started taking the essences and how they started to change and shift. And for those people who don't know how flower essences work, they're an energetic modality that really work on our energetic systems. So they work on the outside, and they work in our auric field, and they really allow us to open to our higher centers just by clearing the way. That's how I see it. They just clear the way, and they just allow us to be present. And I always say with flower essences, if you've never tried them, just try them first. That it's not like it's something that's really expensive. It's a bottle. You put the drops on your tongue, you take it and you wait. You journal, you meditate, and you see the transformation just happening. And it's so simple. And watching all these women just transform into getting closer and closer to their truth, and peeling away the onion layers of what was going on in their lives, I was able to really work on testimonials with them and do one-to-one work with them. And now these are women that are powerful, courageous, and magic women that I'm working with right now, that I have done from day one. And I grow my own flowers, most of them anyway. I grow myself. Obviously, I'm in the UK, so I can't grow everything, but I have a small space, and I grow as much as I can. And I don't like to use, obviously, any pesticides, anything that's added to the soil. I like to watch from the seed all the way up to the flower is blooming, and then I create the flower essence. Where I don't grow the flowers myself, then I always know where they're coming from, so that I know that they're from a healthy space. And You know, at the moment, this is my busiest time, because spring, summer is the time when I love to create. And that's when nature's creating and opening. And we're in the mother energy at the moment. So the mother energy is all about the blooming, the full moon, the expression of, and tomorrow we have a full moon eclipse as well. So this is a perfect time, you know, for that abundant, magical time in nature that the mother brings us. So does that help so far with all that information? Is it just
wonderful to give just sort of the fundamental, you know, the grounding of what you're doing and where it's coming from. And I've got a gazillion questions bubbling up. Because I'm imagining you spending a lot of time outside with the flowers at night. I'm familiar with the process. I'll just share the process that I learned about how to make flower essences, and you can fill in anything in addition or different. So the way I learned to make flower essences is we took a bowl of water out in the sun, right? Because that was the predominant way of doing it. And, you know, a group of women sat around the bowl of water, and we actually clipped the flowers into the bowl of water without touching them with our fingers. And then watched as the sunlight and the water and the flower kind of did an alchemy. And then we did a process called proving, where we all meditated on the energy of the flower and what it was gifting us in the water. And then we mixed the water, then was, you know, it had that energy in it, and we put alcohol in it and to preserve it, because having had the flower touching the water, it could get bacteria or whatever. So you needed to preserve it. And then you would dilute it, and that would actually make it more and more strong. So the water that originally had the flower in it was called the mother. And then we would add more water and dilute it, similar to homeopathics. And then that would be the flower essence that would be used as, you know, however many dilutions, and it actually made it stronger energetically. I've experimented with, because I don't like using alcohol, I've experimented with simply putting a sealed jar of water in the proximity of the plant and asking the flower to give its energy to the water and proving it that way. And I felt that was perfectly fine to do it that way. And especially since I've also made moon water, of putting sealed jars of water out in the moon, and there you are with the moonlight going into the water, and I could see myself putting jars out there for the flowers in the moonlight too. And I was telling Indra beforehand that, you know, flower essences have been summoning me to get more involved for quite some time now. So I look forward to hearing about your forays and into the moonlight with your flower friends, and particularly if you have any stories about needing a particular flower energy, how you knew you needed that for whatever healing process you were going through, and the process of welcoming that energy into the medicine that you were making with the flower essences.
Well, I think it's very similar. It's very similar because I've made with the sunlight as well, quite a few essences, and it is very similar. But I work in more towards the evening time with the moon. But how I do it is that I channel the energy of the flower. So my essences tend to work on the shadow side of our nature. So they do a lot of work on releasing those parts of us that we tend not to like. So let's just take something like anger or jealousy or resentment. And if we're holding on to those, what we would class as such as negative, I don't like using that word because they're just contrasting energies that we have in us. But if, you know, those emotions come up, then my flower essences tend to deal with those. And there's plenty of testimonials that will tell you with my flower essences, they're not for people who are light-hearted, who want to, you know, just float around. They're for people who want to do the work. They're deep and they're extremely healing, and they pull out, you know, they pull out a lot of your old wounds. So that's how I started to notice how strong and how intense they were. And I mean, yes, it's moon energy, but also it's me creating them. So I'm the vessel for the energy coming through. So what I'll do is I'll sit with the flower. I don't tend to go around looking at other people's, say if I was making sunflower, I wouldn't go out looking at what somebody else says about it. I would, because that to me would just create a block in my own mind. And what I like to do is I like to work with the flower itself, let it tell me what it says, rather than going looking online and oh, what does it mean? You know, it doesn't work like that for me. I sit with the flower. It helps my intuition, obviously, if I can tune into the flower. And then I tune in, I channel the flower. And then what I do is I sit in meditation for a period of time. I take my journal, I take my pen, and I just write and write and write and write. And it all comes out through the writing. And then what you see on the website is a small amount of what I get. Because obviously you don't want ring to rings because you'd just be so confused. I mean, if you've ever looked at any flower essence, like back flower essences, and you read them all and you go, I need that, you know, you need everything. Yes. Oh, yeah, I need it all. We need them all. It's like, just take it. So I don't want to really bamboozle people with that. How I often say to people, if they're not working with me on one-to-ones where they will get a really structured flower essence for them personally, then if they want to pick something online, then they pick it with their heart and they pick it with an openness, because then they can just go, that's what's calling me. Try not to read too much. Obviously I have to write a description, but I don't like to think that people sit there going, oh, I need it all. Now I have to call her and tell her that I need everything, you know, because
and I you know, what might be helpful, especially for me, is, you know, I'm having this experience of being called to the flower essences. And I have had the experience, you know, in a training and practicing it myself, of sitting with the flowers, like you say, and receiving something about what they were about and what their energy was. I wonder if you have any early experiences like that, of needing a particular healing energy yourself personally, and going to the flowers and having that. And I would love to hear stories about that, of like actual situations in your life where, wow, I really need to heal this thing, and then I'm going to go to the flowers, and this flower and that flower and this flower gave you these and these messages, and then you made the essence, and then you watch things change in your life. I'd really love to hear the nitty-gritty, how that's worked for you.
A huge one. It isn't so long ago, actually. It's I run groups for people who want to take the flower essences. So it was an actual a flower that was growing. I was sat outside in my yard, and I saw this flower just to the side of me that kind of looked very strange. I'd never seen anything like it before, nor had I walked past it and seen it an hour before. It just happened to be there very quickly. Tends to be how life works. And I looked at it and I had to check what it was, because I didn't know what it was. And it was called red Columbine. I don't know if you've heard of it before. I think very native to the US, and a lot of Native Americans use the actual plant itself. And it's beautiful, strange looking flower. And I was like, wow. And there was only one stem. And I knew that I had to work with it. And I knew really what it was about once I'd sat with it for a period of time. And it was very much about not just the sacral and not the sacral, the Muladhara, the base chakra, the grounding, the security within us all. Are you being treated like a puppet on a string? Are you being directed by other people? Are you not standing in your own power? Are you not looking after yourself and what you really need? So I created this flower essence with the moonlight, and I was selling quite a lot of it, and people were buying it. And I decided that it was so popular that I would create a Facebook group and work with it for 2 months. And what we do is we take the essence for a month, which is called the in-breath, and then for the second month we sit with the essence, because obviously we finished the bottle, but I still believe that there's so much work that the flower's doing, even though we're not taking it, physically. So this was only May this year. And if you look on my website, you can see all the healing benefits of red columbine flower. And basically what happened in my life was my security was taken away from me and my relationship finished. Everything was as the flower said it would be. And it basically took everything, like a bit like the tower in the tarot deck, or a bit like, not that I couldn't deal with it, but it was a case of, we're going to rebuild you because you're going to start again, because we need to sort of dismantle everything so that you can grow in your own power, which is exactly what the flower did, not just for me, but for many people in the group. So that's what I've been working with. And because I'm a strong person anyway, and I'm very intuitive, I knew it was the flower essence, and I knew it was the power of the flower that was doing this with me. So I listened, and I was a bit defensive, and obviously I was kind of pulling a bit on wanting to stay where I was, because God, I didn't want change. I didn't want this change so quickly. But I went with it, and I'm 3 months down the line nearly now, and really seeing why. Now I'm seeing why I was meant to stand even stronger in my own truth. I was meant to work deeper with women. I was meant to work, with the flowers in a much more a deeper way, and really stand in my power without there having to be a male. Not that there's anything wrong with male energy next to you, because it's brilliant. It's fantastic. I'm a big advocate for it. But sometimes, if there is something going on between the two of you, there needs to be something to release that for now, to let it go, just so that you can stand in your own power and be who you need to be transformed into a better relationship, or the same relationship again, but different, And so that's where I feel that I really am right now, and it was due to that flower. It was due to red columbine. So it was a big transformation for me, huge. And I'm also very aware that people do say to me, is it going to have such a big effect on me? And I can honestly say, I don't know. The universe never gives you what you can't deal with. And I know I can deal with a lot. Hence why I got it, and the shift. So that's one of my stories, but I have plenty more.
Do. And it seems very interwoven with the work that you're doing with the people that are benefiting from these healing elixirs that you're creating. Hope it's okay I use that term. I love that term for your essences. It just feels like these magical
They are.
goods that we're drawn to ingest and to really digest. And I can really relate to that, where the transformation that you're guided to and supported in making inside yourself is a big part of what you're then able to support and nourish and guide for others. Yeah. And I've had the experience time and again of hearing words coming out of my mouth supportive of someone else's process, and there's a little voice inside that says, I hope you're listening to this. Right? Or my writing, right? I'm writing something meant to share with the world or the community, and it's like, oh, yeah. And I'm included in the recipient of this message, right? So powerful, very powerful. So, I know you probably don't want to share all of your recipes here. You did share red columbine. I would love to hear about some other key characters in your flower friends community. So red columbine, you said, was about really connecting with your root essence and sovereignty. It comes to me, the word sovereignty, to describe what you were talking about, you know, being fully self-guided and self-defined, which is challenging when, like I was telling you earlier, I'm a relational being, a very relational creator. So being in relationship can be, if, in very specific ways, very supportive to my creative process. And and there's also ways where certain ways that relationships pan out that doesn't feel supportive to my creative process. And yet that is very, recognizing that and making a change in whatever way, like you were saying, whether that's, leaving the relationship altogether, or, communicating to the person, look, this way that we're relating doesn't feel supportive to me. How can we do it different? And then seeing if the person is willing and able to do something different, right? Or taking a break from that relationship and then coming back after the transformation has happened, or going through the transformation together and changing things together. So that relational creativity feels like that the essence of red columbine, of that sovereignty, is an important part that it's easy for us to forget, especially as women, when we've been taught to just follow the lead of someone else.
Absolutely.
And lose connection with our wombs, with our core of creativity, and not listen to that guidance there. So reestablishing, wow, such a powerful essence that you're describing, of reestablishing that core connection and that core devotion to that, and then allowing that healthy relational nourishment and inspiration to happen, while it's protecting it from being usurped or given away and not nourished. There's all kinds of ways that happens. And we've been talking a lot about womb trauma and the womb-centered healing temple, and oftentimes old traumas, even ancestral traumas, can be what is that can be a source of that disconnect, where we say, oh, I'll just disconnect from that core place of sovereignty for myself and just rely on someone else.
I've done it. I did it. Exactly. I watched it happen. I watched it happen to myself, and I ignored it. I totally ignored it, and the universe wasn't going to have that. I have to be grateful for that. I have to be really grateful for that. And I always say with women, is like, one thing that when your gut or your intuition or wherever it sits in your body is telling you something, please listen, because it's telling you for a reason. And it's better to know in the beginning than further on down the line. Just listen to yourself, because we have so many things that call out, what are you doing, and we're not listening. And mine really was about, in a way, giving my power away for this time, and not standing in it and relying on somebody else to hold me. And that is no fault of my partners at all. That's something that I have really learned from this situation, of just like, wow, look at me. And 11 weeks down the line, how much more in my center that I am, and how much more calmer I am, and how much more stiller I am. And No, it's quite amazing. One of the essences that's actually coming to me, which is, it's our next group actually in August, it's lilac.
Mm-hmm.
And lilac is very much about self-sabotage and abandonment. So it resonates with the womb energy very much because it's very good for people who have, and this is a lot of people, probably the majority of people, who feel that sense of abandonment in some way, shape or form in their life, whether that's in a relationship, through themselves, through their parents or wherever. And it's a very powerful flower elixir for that feeling of I've sabotaged myself, I've felt abandoned, I've let myself just go, and I need to come back to my center and honor me, give myself some self-love. And it's lovely for that. Really nice lilac, yeah.
Right. Well, and the thing with flower essences is that you've kind of got to develop a relationship with a plant if you're going to make your own, right? I mean, lilacs are done blooming in my neck of the woods, and hearing this now, I'm like, ooh, I'd like to make some lilac. Well, I need to go make friends with some lilac bushes and be ready to, and my sense of it is that's a lovely place to start is, oh, you're not blooming now. Hi, my name's Sama. And, what is your medicine for me? Right. I'm going to bring you water or whatever, my presence, my gratitude, my love, and develop a relationship. And then, and isn't that a lovely place to start than just showing up when they're blooming and say, give it to me now. Right?
Absolutely. I often have an idea of what I'm going to create, but then nature takes me somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
I'll have a list in the autumn winter time for the next year and think, okay, this is probably what's needed, and I can pretty much guarantee that the list is thrown away and I'm sent somewhere else.
Do you ever work with wildflowers that are growing in the
I grow my own wildflowers too.
Okay.
Yeah, I have actually grown quite a few this year. So I've just put out this week, borage. I've also put out wild strawberry. And I've also put out poppies up at the moment, but poppy's a great one for clarity and decision making. So very good for feeling, for this area, for the, for getting space and knowing what you need and want. A beautiful flower for that.
And there's always something blooming.
Always.
Oh my goodness. And so now what's coming up for me as far as the question is, you mentioned before that you also make vaginal steaming blends where we're actually getting into some of the more physical properties of the plants. And I tend to, that's what I've mostly been working with. Like I say, the flower essences, I've dabbled a little bit and it's been calling to me. But the physical properties, it's like something I can sink my teeth in. I can have a cup of tea and taste and smell the essence of the plants and the whole process of harvesting them. And I've got bags and bags of herbs drying around the house and hanging on the wall and all of this. And that whole physical process is so nourishing in such a bone deep way, if that makes sense to you. Like I can feel it in my bones. And the energy essence, it seems like it would work more with the emotional aspects of it. And when I'm doing body work, I know that I invite my clients to engage with both of those realms, all of those realms, the energy realms, the spirit realm, the emotional realms, which the flower essence, it seems like they would be involved in all of those, and then the physical realm as well. So it feels like my herbalism, the flowers are calling me to engage with this other aspect of it. And so I know I had a question at the beginning of that little spiel. Do you remember what that was? I'm just curious about your vaginal steam blend making and this whole relationship with the more using, accessing the more physical qualities of the herbs, and how you combine these different aspects of working with the herbs and flowers.
I actually use the flower essences inside of the Yoni steams. I've got a trilogy called Maiden Mother Crone, which is the crone is willow. Sorry, the crone is oak, and the mother is willow, and the maiden is the essences of all the blossoms, the cherry blossom and the apple blossom and the peach blossom. And I put those in the Yoni steam that I create. And my Yoni steams have changed quite a lot, just because I notice the energy of us changes, you know, and when we shift and change, the flowers that I use tend to be a lot different. And at the moment, I'm going very much for the lavender, the rose, and the chamomile flowers, the ones that are a lot gentler. You know, I think that's what many of us are needing. I've noticed that it's only recently that women have actually started to know more about Yoni steaming and say, hey, even today I got a message to say, you know, I know you do Yoni steaming. And it's like, wow, people are actually asking now for the steams. And this is like, I've been doing the steams for like two years now. I feel that, you know, there's something that every woman should try. There is a video on my website of how to do it, so that I'm not naked or anything, but it's just showing people how they can do it, because some people just don't know what it is, and what is it for, you know, and why are we doing this, and really, does that work? It's an ancient practice. I mean, I learned it through being a yogi. You know, I've been a yogi for many years, since I was 17. So it was something that I felt very strongly about, because men don't hold our energy, but women hold male energy. We hold all our partner's energies within our womb space. And unless we meditate it away, unless we steam it away, unless we do some really deep energetic healing work, body work, we can't get rid of it unless we really do some deep stuff. This is why we feel so much emotion, because we've got so much going on in here, you know, from past trauma. So Yoni steaming is an amazing way to actually to help cleanse away the energy of not just past partners, but from support with endometriosis, or, you know, painful periods, or, you know, if you're going through menopause, you can still do it. You know, you can still do it if you haven't got a physical womb. You know, you can still do it because the space is there. And it's just a really good way of letting go. I always say to women, you need to try it before you actually, you know, you criticize it, because it's very, very powerful. And I'm guessing the women that listen to this are already pretty engaged with it anyway, you know.
Right. Well, that's a big part of what I'm offering in the womb-centered healing temple, and, you know, I help women listen to the messages from the womb and what it's asking for, all those things you described and more, really looking in at the menstrual cycle, really looking in at any overall health symptoms that are connected to and related to our womb space, and its whole, how that's a central part of all of our systems, and integrated and holistically with all of our systems. And so I love what you're saying about putting the flower essences into the steam, so that it uses that steam with the essence of those particular flowers, and you're inviting that energy of addressing the emotional, spiritual, and energetic aspects of what's going on. The steam already kind of does that, because the steam itself is sort of distilling out the essence of the plants that you're using in there, but in a more physical way than say channeling the energy of a flower into a water. And then diluting it, you know. So that's really beautiful what you're sharing about that, and I'm really looking forward to experimenting with that myself, and then I can share back with what comes up for me. I mean, I've literally been having people giving me, you know, whole cases of flower essences for free, or, you know, sending me, you know, it's like the flowers are like Sama, it's time for us to do this thing. You know, I had, it started recently. Somebody wrote to me and said, hey, I want to send you a free sample of my flower essences. They sent me this beautiful package of 3 little essences. And then, so it's really calling to me. So I really appreciate you sharing your journey. And so could you tell us the exact website address that you've been referring to? This website, it sounds like it's very informative. People can go on there and learn about essences and how you make them and what the flowers are bringing through you, as well as vaginal steaming and other things.
So you can go to www.silent-moon.co.uk. That's my main website for, you know, to find the flower essences and the only steams. But if you want to get your free 6 magical moon rituals as well, if you want to work with the moon energy, if you go to www.theimaginarium.love, you can pick up your 6 magical moon rituals there and start doing ritual work with the energy of the moon. So that just gets you connected to the moon energy too. So if you know, it's really good as well for beginners, for people who want to try ritual work but are not quite sure how to start. It's just a step-by-step process in 6 steps to be able to work with the moon energy.
Lovely.
It's really free. Have it.
Wonderful. So the first one that you said is silent-moon.co.uk. Okay, so it's not in the United States. We often have .com, so it's not .com. It's .co.uk, and with a hyphen, actual little dash between silent and moon. So just to clarify all of that, and this Imaginarium, could you say that one again?
Yes, it's www.theimaginarium.love.
Theimaginarium.love, and that's where we can get a 6-part
moon rituals,
magical moon rituals for free to start working with the lunar energies. And does that include suggestions for flower essence to use, those rituals? Awesome. Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Indra, for joining us. And, you know, you're another example. I think your assistant reached out to me and said, hey, you've got to interview Indra about flower essence.
We're just
yeah, so the flowers are really calling to me. Okay, I hear you. So thank you so much again. And those listeners who are want to learn more about the womb-centered healing temple as well, we mentioned that you can go to wombcenteredhealing.com, www.wombcenteredhealing.com, and check out the membership site. I have trainings. I have a triple goddess, Maiden Mother crone, vaginal steaming meditation.
Nice.
Right now it's called Womb Goddess Awakening, and that's part of the membership program. And there's lots of other things on there that we're doing in the temple. So you can join us there to learn about that as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and that's all for now. Until next time.